Hello, this is PG. I'm second year student of JCM program. Unfortunately, I'm taking the online only lessons, so I cannot meet all of you in person. But today I'm happy to be here and present something I discovered recently during the lockdown. It's about a voicing technique, especially on guitar, but I think it's an interesting way to examine the possibilities of the scale or anything about your playing. So the concept is like this. We all know that if you have a second interval in the voicing of your chord, the second interval of voicings, no matter it's major or minor, the minor second is the best, and we'll have a distinctive effect in the voicings. So this is the example. I'm playing a C major 7 chord, drop 2, and the first inversion. The name doesn't matter, but as you can hear, we have at the middle I have B and C. The notes B and C, there are minor second interval, half step. So for me, there's a bit of harshness or spiciness, no matter how you call it, but I think it's very interesting sound in my ears. So so we all know that how great those voicings are, and but it's kind of difficult for guitarists to play them spontaneously, because we are kind of physically constrained by the structure of the fretboard. So it's kind of hard for us to find, let's say, a second or minor second interval, especially minor second interval on a guitar, when we're thinking about a chord to play. Take me for example, I used to play something like this. Sorry. This is a minor 9 chord, but I put the 9 in the middle. So I have the A and B flat, and B flat, also as the half step. But other than that, I'm not pretty sure how can I play that kind of interval at different position on my guitar. So that's a problem I had. So I think in order to break that limit, why don't I just locate the second first on my fretboard? And for pianists, it's just the key right next to another key. So might not be a problem for pianists, but certainly a problem for guitarists. So I think my first priority will be finding the second on my fretboard, and then I kind of add more notes to that. So if, for example, if I can find it can be anything. So maybe E and F. If I find that on my guitar fretboard, I just add one more note. So I can. This voicing sounds interesting. I mean, the second is interesting by itself. If I can add one more note, maybe another one at the bottom. So it sounds like a chord. At least it sounds like an inversion or something. It's 4 notes, so we can call it chord. Like I said, the name does not matter. So I think, so how can I put that in my playing or like comping or soloing? So this is the way I practice it. So first, let us just find a chord. Find a scale. Sorry, a scale. But let's say a C major scale. That's just for demonstrating. So in C major scale, we all know that what the notes are. But the first priority is finding the half steps. Finding half steps in the C major scale. So there are E and F, B and C. So I think, okay, E and F and B and C are the only half steps we have in the C major scale. I'm gonna play them on my guitar. So B and C, E and F. E and F. After that, I realized that the other intervals are whole step. So except for the half step, they're all whole step. So I kind of, for whole step is kind of easy for guitar. So it becomes something like this. Starting from C, okay? Yeah. second and third string. I choose second and third string because they are easier for the half step. Otherwise, you need to stretch more. So I choose second and third string on guitar. It doesn't matter for the pianist, so you can skip this. But the point is, once you locate the half step in the scale, the rest of them will be whole step. That's pretty obvious. So I started to practice like this, finding the half step first. The rest of them are whole step. And here's the example of how I applied it to 2-5-1 progression. And once I'm familiar with the positions on my guitar and the fingerings, I can certainly add one more note and let them become more like a chord, like a 3-note chord. But like I said, the choice of the note, the top note, doesn't matter. Just like pick any note that sounds good to you. So, for example, if I play E and F, I can add D at the top at the first string. So I can add C, maybe B, and maybe A. Okay, so as long as they sound good to my ear, I can add one more note above the minor second I have. And then I can jump to any position I like. Depends on the top note. So to make it more melodic for your comping, for example, and create a melody based. At my first string, but at the same time inserting the minor second. Sorry. That's my idea. And here's the example. And once you feel kind of natural about that, you can hear everything naturally, you can certainly add one more note at the bottom of the voicing, like I mentioned earlier. So, same example, E, F, D. I can add A at the bottom to become something like a chord. The name doesn't matter, but doesn't matter how to name the chord, name the voicing, but it's about the sound. If you like the sound or not. That's right. Something like that. Here's another example. And the point of using the second in your voicing, I think the most important thing is still the balance of everything. For example, we want to make contrast. In other words, you don't want to use the second in your voicings all the time, because I think it makes it like less interesting about everything. So by having contrast, switching between conventional voicings or like the tertian voicings, voicing third or fourth, more common voicings, and the second voicing. That's how I call it. That's my terminology of calling the voicings second voicing, or cluster, depends on how you call it. The contrast is very important. So here's another example of the combination of conventional and second voicing. And I remember an interesting story. when I was practicing the half step, and I just practiced the because like I mentioned earlier, I tried to find this minor second first. So all I play is the minor second, and apparently I put on my earphone when I'm practicing that. So without hearing the backing track, I listen back to my practicing, and it's horrible because it just have minor second all the time. Like for example, I practice. It's very terrible. But if you make it like a contrast with the conventional voicing, those second intervals will stand out. Something like that. So here's another example of a combination. And you can definitely use this idea as your soloing or so-called linear comping if you don't want to play all the notes at the same time. But for guitarists, I found it's really interesting to play by the shape you're familiar with. So for example, if I have this 4-chord voicing, I can just play them separately. It has the same interesting effect. Or for example, in other places. Sorry about that. So as I think as a horn player, it's also kind of important to locate the half step in the scales you're playing. So by doing that, you are very clear about all the relationships between every note. So you can create like a creative pattern or a new pattern you haven't thought of. So here's another example of my attempt to do the linear comping and soloing with the idea. So basically I'm following the shape, and I hope you enjoy it. So after a week or so, I realized that if we flip the minor second, it becomes major 7. So for example, E and F, if you put the E 1 octave higher, it becomes major 7. So it kind of opens up a new door for the voicings. So we can just apply everything we just practiced into this. But instead of minor second, now it becomes major 7. Something like that. But the most important thing is still about locating the minor second interval, because you know them really well, so no matter how you put it on the fretboard, or no matter how you think of them, no matter they are in minor second form or major 7 form, you are aware of what the notes are. So that's the good part of it. You don't need to practice the whole thing again. And the major second becomes the minor 7. So for example, if you have D and E, and now it becomes this. You put the D 1 octave higher. So I can run the whole scale like this. Something like that. And apparently the examples I just played are not all the possibilities. I've been practicing this for like a few months, but I'm still figuring out more possibility of it. So for example, you can take a different scale. It doesn't need to be major scale at all. So like any scale you can think of, and the first thing is try to locate the minor second in the scale, and then familiarize yourself with the position of the minor second. And if you're a pianist, that doesn't matter. If you're any instrumentalist, it doesn't matter. Just for the guitarist, that challenge is just for the guitarist. And once you get familiar with the minor second, you can add the top notes and then the bottom notes if you need it. And another interesting to try it for guitar is you can move the second to different string sets. That's another possibility. So you can create more spaces at the top or at the bottom, either way. So, and for example, like I'm interested to the scale called harmonic major or leading diminished, depends on how you call it. Because apparently it has 3 half steps in the scale, so you have more half steps to deal with, and it's pretty fun to play. Let me show you real quick. So you have E and F, G and A flat, B and C, in that scale. So you have 3 minor seconds. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation. It's just a kind of a way to enhance, at least I think, to enhance my playing a bit. So, and it's kind of a new way for me to hear different possibility of voicings and lines, the direction of my lines. So I hope you like it, and hope you have a nice weekend. Thank you.